my final submission for the bike rack design project for public space. This project explores how something as ordinary as a bike rack can become expressive, responsive, and meaningful in context through design. As I began the design process for the bike racks, since I think innovation begins with an I, pun intended, I noticed existing designs around Sydney seem static and uninspired. I asked why the static nature of the bike racks in the first place. Is it a convention? Can I not achieve both the perception of motion and a static nature at a physiological level? And all of this while keeping compliance with manufacturable limitations and Australian standards for bike parking? Is it not possible? So I was inspired to actually add some dynamism to my part of the designs for the bike racks because of the limitation that I was seeing around Sydney in the bike rack designs. Now, inspired by natural motion, like a way a bee is attracted to a flower due to the flower's complexity, the form of this bike rack seeks to break away from static urban geometry, seeking inspiration from the bee and flower metaphor, shaping the overall curvature and the blooming effect of the bike rack. But the complexity necessarily does not take away the integrity of use by intention. Why I say that is because, for example, the extremes, the two extremes as shown in the manufacturing drawing in the isometric view over here, the two extremes, they are slightly lower in height as compared to the ones in the middle. Why I did that is because, for instance, a kid, right, when they look at the bike racks at the extremes and they see that they're at their eye level, the kids would want to park their bikes in those places. Or people who have e-bikes, which are foldable and have a really low saddle height, people who want to lock their bikes will find these extreme bike parking frames extremely useful. Whereas adults with a standard bike, for instance, as mentioned in the Australian standards, would want to park their bikes in the middle because they wouldn't have to bend as much to lock their bikes with the racks. So now in this render, you can witness how a render of the bike bike parking has been placed in a simulated beachside context. The acrylic clear coat and the use of IDES2321 tubes prevents the rack from corrosion, and its placement on the pavement shows how the form fits naturally in the public space. To get to this stage, I explored various versions of the form. These initial sketch models were important for capturing motion and flow. Once I did that, I got back to the technical aspect on how I would be assembling this waveform of the bike racks in an actual environment. And I got to thinking, and I thought maybe I can attach flanges to the bike racks and use anchored bolts to fasten the frames to the concrete floor itself. Now, one thing that I did learn from this course was actually that every decision that I made during this process of designing the bike rack, at first I felt I was being limited by the material, the fabrication techniques, and the cost. But as I was progressing through the project, I realized that these limitations, these perceived limitations, actually aided me in heading towards my design, because I would know what my next problem was, and then it would push me to find the loophole to solve that problem. So I feel like limiting the palette can also sometimes encourage innovation, and that's one of the best insights that I've